Hey everyone, today I'm talking about INFJ personality types and INFP personality types and why we don't fit in. When I say we don't fit in, I mean we don't fit into our families, our friend groups, society at large. Most INFJs and INFPs report a feeling of not fitting in, of being the odd duck, being the odd person out. This is a really hard struggle for a lot of INFJs and a lot of INFPs. And honestly, it's been quite surprising to me in the past few years as I've read more about the INFJ experience and the INFP experience online. I've also seen that it seems we get a little bit of flack for this from other types, that we need to get over it and, we're not as odd as we think we are, or it's not that big of a deal. It really is for INFJ personality types and INFP personality types. It really does feel like a very big deal, especially when we are in our younger years, when we are pre-adolescent, in the adolescent years, in the teenage years, even in college or in our 20s. It can feel like a very severe feeling of being alienated. And a lot of the time, that carries through into adulthood. So some of us are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, and still feel like we don't fit in. I get an email just about every day from an INFJ or an INFP telling me that they don't feel like they fit in. Now, there are a lot of different reasons for this, but one of the biggest reasons is that we are healers. We are natural healers, meaning we're born with healing gifts. And when you are a natural healer, you usually have a higher level of consciousness. And I don't say that in a way that's judgmental toward other people or toward other types. I am not saying that INFJ personality types and INFP personality types are better. What I am saying is that we tend to be growth-oriented people, and we usually are striving for a higher level of consciousness. So, because our core values are compassion, harmony, empathy, we're usually always striving to see the bigger picture. We're usually always striving to see how our actions affect other people. And that gives us a different consciousness level. The consciousness of our culture, Western culture, American culture, which I think is, also European culture. It's a lot of the world culture now. The consciousness of our culture is mainly focused on competition and aggression and scarcity and right versus wrong and winning. We see that everywhere. We live in a competitive culture where people are encouraged to be in competition with everyone, and people are really encouraged to be aggressive, to climb that ladder to the top, and if someone gets in your way, bulldoze right over them, to be self-interested only, to have an agenda that only serves them. We also live in a very black and white culture. There's right, there's wrong. There are certain teams, right? Culture is really divided up into differing teams that are opposing each other. So if you hold this set of opinions, then you're against this other set of people. And of course, winning. We see this in corporate culture. We see this in schools. We see this in our governments. We see this in the political scene. It's all about winning. It's all about being dominant and being on top. That is not the way that most INFJs and INFPs work. We have a different consciousness level. We have a healer consciousness. And if you are a healer and you have a healer consciousness, the values I just named, aggression, winning, right versus wrong, there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser, that won't resonate with you. In fact, you'll probably feel a deep aversion to that because healer consciousness is quite different. Healer consciousness focuses on compassion, harmony, seeing all different sides of a situation, not making one person or one party out to be wrong and the others to be right, but always endeavoring to see all sides of a situation. This is something that a lot of INFJs and INFPs actually will be criticized for in our family groups, in our friend groups, because a lot of people will say, you are always changing your opinion, or you're always agreeing with whoever you're talking to, right? Like you're just sort of accommodating and being the chameleon depending on who you're around. While we do have a chameleon nature that does come out, when we are seeing all sides of a situation, that's actually something different. And I've talked to many different INFJs and INFPs who will say, I don't feel like I'm being inauthentic when that happens. When I am talking to somebody and I'm sincerely trying to understand where they're coming from, their point of view, the context of their circumstances, I do genuinely begin to see the situation the way they see it. And so it makes sense to me why they're thinking the way they are, why they are taking the actions that they're taking. That's really hard for a lot of other people. A lot of other people can't do that. They can't see all sides of a situation. They only see their side. And so anything outside of that, anything that clashes with that, they tend to immediately label it as like, well, that's stupid, or that doesn't make sense, or that person's crazy. An INFJ or an INFP will very rarely label someone else as stupid or crazy or not making sense, because it's very important to us that we understand the other person's point of view. That's healer consciousness, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. We also tend to hold opinions lightly. We tend to be very interested in ideas for ideas' sake. So although INFJs and INFPs are very emotionally centered and we can be very emotional, when we're talking about ideas, we can switch sides. We can come off as a bit colder because our thinking skills come out, because we love ideas, we love to learn about ideas, and we love to exchange ideas. So it's actually easy for us to shift into neutral about ideas and to hear someone else's ideas without becoming emotionally attached to those ideas. That is also something most of the population cannot do. So they may become frustrated with us when talking about ideas, because in their mind it's something to be won. It's an argument to be won, right? That's why you're having the conversation, because they're proving their opinion and you need to debate and prove your opinion. It's all about proving something. Again, this is not how most INFJs and INFPs work. We're not trying to prove ourselves. We're not trying to prove our argument or persuade the other person that we're right. We're trying to just genuinely exchange ideas in a neutral manner, because we're very interested in the ideas themselves. We're always interested in gaining more information about other people's viewpoints so that we can see all sides of that situation. So we tend to hold our opinions lightly. We're not super emotionally attached to them. Now, that's not true for every single idea. We definitely have things we're passionate about, especially if we're working or feeling like an advocate in certain situations for an oppressed party, a persecuted party. We will tend to get very fired up in that way. But if it's something that's a little bit more neutral, we're really able to step back and sort of gather that information about other people's viewpoints. So these values we hold: compassion, empathy, seeing all sides of a situation, holding opinions lightly, idea exchange for the sake of ideas. This can be really threatening to other people. These kinds of values are threatening and confusing to a lot of other people, because they don't understand what we're doing, they don't understand how to do it, and they don't understand why someone would want to approach things in that way. So it feels threatening and confusing to them. Where INFJs and INFPs get into trouble is when we keep trying to make ourselves understood to others who cannot understand us. And I've covered this in many, many different classes. It seems to always come up because it's a really sticky issue for a lot of INFJs and INFPs. It means so much to us to be seen and to be understood for who we are, who we authentically are, that when someone else doesn't understand us, it can feel very hurtful. So a lot of the time when we get into these situations with people where they hold mainstream cultural values, competition winning, right and wrong, you have to prove yourself, we come in with our healer consciousness values of compassion and seeing all perspectives and harmony. They find that confusing and threatening, and then they belittle us, or they criticize us, or they dismiss us. Instead of detaching from them, our first strategy is to usually try to explain more, try to make them understand us, because that's how we would do it if the situation was reversed. We would seek to understand them. So usually we think, oh, they just need a little bit more information, then they can put themselves in my shoes and they'll understand everything. No, not true. It doesn't work that way for most other people. So it's most of the time a waste of time for us to try to make the other person understand, try to give them more information. The best thing you can do is actually remove yourself from those situations, from those games that much of society is playing. That doesn't mean you have to door slam everyone. It doesn't mean you need to end every relationship. But when you see that kind of game coming, a debate or some sort of aggressive conversation, someone you've gotten into it with before, you know they're not going to understand where you're coming from. If anything, they're going to find you threatening or confusing. Remove yourself from those types of conversations and those types of games and live your own life focused on your own values, which are healer consciousness values. I'm teaching a new class, and this is just one of the topics we're going to be talking about. It's called Healing the Wounded Healer. This is a great class for you if you are obviously an INFJ or an INFP, but if you're really working with your empath abilities this year, your healing gifts, you're sort of waking up to your very highly sensitive nature, your empathic nature. I've had a lot of people show up in my classes this year who are saying, I always knew I was sensitive. I always knew that I gravitated toward healing work, but it's only now that I'm really seeing how much me being an empath affects my life and how much the energy of other people affects my life and how drained I feel and how much I struggle because I'm dealing with all of this energy coming in from the outside, different toxic dynamics from my family, my friends, the media, and I'm really trying to navigate this. I want to do something creative with my life. I want to do something that has to do with healing work. I don't know what that is. I don't really know how to find my footing in today's world and today's society as a healer, as an empath, as a creative person. How do I do that? So that's sort of the core of the class. Obviously, we're going to be talking about a lot of family of origin issues for empaths, for INFJs and INFPs, because a lot of us share the same family of origin issues like narcissism, toxic family dynamics, not being seen as a child, not being heard, not being listened to, not being recognized as an intuitive, not being recognized as an empath, and having to figure all of that out on your own from a very young age, which most of us had to do. So that's just a few of the things we're going to be covering in this class. It is going to be a lot of information in this class. We're going to cover a lot more. That's basically the crux of it, learning to accept ourselves as healers and heal the wounds from the past that have so far held us back. This class starts August 28th. Please subscribe to my newsletter so you can get the notification of when registration begins. I always get that question. Is this class open yet? When will I know it's open? How will I know it's open? Subscribe to my newsletter and you will get all of that directly to your inbox. The link is in the comments below. Please also like this video and subscribe to my channel. I do tons of videos for INFJs and INFPs on all sorts of topics. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.